What sexual abuse damages can survivors recover in New York lawsuits? Attorney Andrew M. Stengel. Sexual abuse causes harm that extends far beyond the assault itself, financially, emotionally, and in ways that compound over years. Survivors in New York have the right to pursue civil lawsuits against their abusers and against the institutions that enabled the abuse. Three major laws create those rights: the Child Victims Act, the Adult Survivors Act, and the New York City Gender-Motivated Violence Act. Understanding what sexual abuse damages New York courts recognize and how each category of harm is calculated is the first step toward knowing whether a civil lawsuit makes sense for you. Non economic sexual abuse damages pain, suffering, and emotional distress. Non economic damages compensate for harms that resist easy calculation, but are no less real. Physical pain and suffering, emotional distress, anxiety, depression, and post traumatic stress disorder are all recoverable in a New York sexual abuse lawsuit. Survivors may also pursue compensation for loss of enjoyment of life, humiliation, and loss of companionship. New York juries weigh several factors when determining these awards: the severity and duration of the abuse, the survivor's age at the time, and the long term psychological impact documented through clinical evidence. Survivors do not need to prove a specific dollar amount. They present the medical record and personal testimony, and juries determine a fair award based on the full picture of harm. Non economic damages often represent the largest portion of a survivor's total recovery in New York sexual abuse lawsuits. The trauma of sexual abuse can persist for decades. New York law allows survivors to pursue compensation that reflects the full duration of that suffering, not just the immediate aftermath. Economic damages, New York sexual abuse, survivors can pursue. Economic damages compensate for measurable financial losses tied directly to the abuse. Medical expenses, therapy and counseling costs, psychiatric treatment, and prescription medications all qualify. Survivors may also recover lost wages if the abuse caused missed work and lost earning capacity when trauma derailed education or career development. New York courts recognize that sexual abuse often disrupts a survivor's entire life trajectory. A survivor who left school because of abuse may recover damages reflecting the income they would have earned. These damages account for both past losses already suffered and projected future financial harm, and they can be substantial. Additionally, expert witnesses play a critical role in economic damages cases. Forensic economists and vocational rehabilitation specialists calculate past income losses and future earning capacity using employment records, tax returns, and industry wage data. That expert foundation is what converts a general sense of harm into a specific, credible dollar figure. Punitive damages and institutional accountability in New York. Punitive damages serve a distinct purpose from compensatory awards. Rather than compensating the survivor, they punish defendants for particularly reckless or intentional conduct and deter future misconduct. In New York sexual abuse lawsuits, punitive damages most often arise against institutional defendants, schools, churches, hospitals, and youth organizations that knew about an abuser and chose to protect themselves rather than act. Consider a New York school that received complaints about a staff member's conduct but transferred them rather than reporting to authorities. A jury may award punitive damages in that case on top of the full compensatory award. Individual abusers may also face punitive awards in cases of extreme cruelty or repeated abuse over an extended period. Furthermore, punitive damages send a message beyond the individual case. They transform a private civil lawsuit into an accountability mechanism, one that institutions across New York take seriously when deciding how to handle future complaints. What the Child Victims Act, Adult Survivors Act, and GMVA allow survivors to recover. Each of New York's major sexual abuse statutes creates distinct pathways to civil recovery. The Child Victims Act opened a look back window for survivors of childhood abuse, allowing lawsuits previously barred by the statute of limitations. The Adult Survivors Act provided a similar window for adult survivors of sexual assault. Both reflect New York's recognition that trauma and shame, not indifference, prevent many survivors from coming forward quickly. The New York City Gender-Motivated Violence Act covers gender-based violence, including sexual assault, and adds an important recovery provision. Survivors who prevail can recover attorney's fees. That provision removes a financial barrier that might otherwise prevent survivors from pursuing justice, regardless of their personal resources. Under all three laws, survivors can pursue economic, non economic, and punitive damages. New York courts have treated these statutes as a deliberate policy shift, one that prioritizes survivor rights and institutional accountability over outdated time limits that protected wrongdoers for far too long. The law firm of Andrew M. Stengel, PC, is here to help. Recovering the full scope of sexual abuse damages in New York requires experienced legal representation, someone who understands the clinical evidence, the applicable statutes, and the institutional dynamics that determine how much survivors can recover. The law firm of Andrew M. Stengel. PC represents survivors of sexual abuse throughout New York under the Child Victims Act, the Adult Survivors Act, and the Gender Motivated Violence Act. Contact us for a free, completely confidential consultation. Email info@stengellaw.com. For more information, please visit our website, stengellaw.com. Attorney advertising. Prior results do not guarantee a similar outcome.